Hey, folks. Sorry for the delay here. It's been a long day. I've been traveling all over the country, and while I'm on a plane from one end of the country to the other, I see this crowd from Tommy Tuberville, and look, I have done my best with Tommy Tuberville, but this is a bridge too far. This racist rant at a MAGA rally just can't go uncalled out. Somebody has just got to call bullshit on his bullshit. It is just absolutely ridiculous. And when I saw this, not only was I embarrassed for the state of Alabama. I mean, remember, this is a guy that when he was running, he didn't know what the hell the Voting Rights Act was. Thought it was something about ballot security or something like that. It's a true story. If you hadn't heard it, it's out there. And so now, United States Senator, soon to be senior United States Senator, comes up with this racist rant. And I'm trying to think, is it just racist rant or is it ignorance? And I decided, it's probably both. It's probably both. But you get into these MAGA extremist rallies that are going on around the country, in this case in Nevada, and you get all whipped up and you get a crowd going into frenzy. There's probably Confederate battle flags flying like crazy throughout that crowd. There usually are, just like there was on January 6th. And it's this white nationalist appeal that harkens back to a really dark time in Alabama, a dark time in the United States, really dark time for this country. Back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, but even before that, in the Reconstruction era, where these rants like this can cause real serious issues and problems. And you get all whipped up in the frenzy of those MAGA rallies, and your true self, I think, comes out. That wasn't an accident. That was something that was said, because guess what? He not only talked about criminals and reparations, he talked about food stamps. All of that is part of the same thing. Now, here's the thing. First of all, he talked about Democrats want to pay criminals reparations. Now, that, because of the context there, is why I figured it's a little bit of ignorance as well as just a racist comment. But the fact is here, Democrats have never, to my knowledge, and I've been around for a while, I don't think any Democrat has ever proposed paying criminals. I'm assuming he's talking about people who are incarcerated, because the people that are no longer incarcerated, who are trying to make a go of it in life, they're on their own probation, on parole, or either got past crimes, who are working, trying to make a living for themselves and paying taxes on it. That's a different issue. So I'm assuming he's talking about incarcerated folks in this country. Democrats have not proposed to actually pay criminals. Now, then he talks about paying reparations. And folks, he may not, but I think he probably does. Reparations is a term that is uniquely identified with descendants of slaves, Black people in this country, African-American population in this country. There has been discussions about reparations to descendants of slaves. In Alabama, in Mobile, we found the last slave ship. And there's been discussion because folks are the descendants of those slaves that came over in that last illegal ship, are still living down near Mobile in Africatown. So he knows full well that reparations are identified with the Black community in Alabama and across the country. In Alabama, it's 27% of his constituents. 27% of his constituents. So it's not hard to connect the dots between a rally in which he's talking about Democrats wanting to pay reparations to criminals, and basically the broad brush that he's painting the Black community that they're just criminals. Folks, this kind of crap's got to stop. And people need to call this out. Not just people like me, not just people identified as Democrats. Businesses need to call this out. Every business leader in Alabama needs to call it out. Every Republican, Democrat office holder in Alabama needs to call this out. They don't need to sugarcoat it. They don't need to try to explain that, well, I would have said it a different way. Crime is a problem, and of course it is, and we're dealing with that. Democrats are dealing with that. They're trying to fund the police. Don't sugarcoat it. Call it out. Call it out for what it is, because we have seen it before. We've seen it, and we saw what happened in a state like Alabama. It took business leaders in Alabama in the early 60s. It took business leaders to try to get rid of Bull Connor because of the racism and all the things that they saw with fire hoses and dogs and the bombing of a church, to get rid of people like Bull Connor so that Birmingham could show America that we are changed, that we're different. And it was just 10 years after that Birmingham was declared an all-American city. And it was because of businesses who stepped up and said enough is enough of the same kind of bullshit that Tommy Tuberville rambled on last night. Businesses, because at some point this is going to catch up to us. Alabama is already behind our sister states in so many ways. We're behind. We don't grow as much in our population. Yeah, we've had businesses come in. Huntsville's doing pretty well. Mobile's doing pretty well. Birmingham's not doing too bad either. But you go in between, and they're struggling, except for the federal dollars that are coming in. And we're not growing like others. People are leaving the state. You look at every matrix about a state, and for almost universally, all things good that are measured, we're near the bottom. All things bad that are measured, we're near the top. And Republicans have had control of the Alabama State House for 10 years, 12 years now. And look where it's got us. Not any better off than we were. In fact, probably worse off in so many things compared to sister states all around the South that are moving ahead of us. So businesses need to kind of go back. They need to go back to what folks back in the 60s decided that they would do, that they might put aside, because those business leaders were not friends of the civil rights movement at all. But they decided, there's something better for the state of Alabama. There's something better for our businesses. There's something better for all of us. That if we try to make sure that we have a state that's welcoming, that we have public officials who don't just come up with these racist tropes, we need to do something to lift all boats. And that's what the business community did in Alabama about 60 years ago. And it worked. We did pretty well. We're still behind. And now, all of a sudden, from the legislature that does one of the worst immigration bills 10 years ago to the abortion bill that's so bad, all we're doing, if folks in Alabama, the folks in charge down in Montgomery, and so many in our congressional delegation would quit fighting these damn culture wars and start doing things for people and start really working on these kitchen table issues, then we might move up in the ranks of all things good. We might move down in the ranks of all things bad. But we've got to do it. And by the way, it wasn't just the reparations and the thing about paying criminals reparations that Tuberville was. It was part of a long litany that included, getting rid of food stamps, yanking subsistence for people that mostly are working, that are trying to make a living, have been for a while. Some people absolutely, and what's particularly galling, this is not just somebody that was raised on a plantation. This is somebody that coached football, coached a lot of African American players, supposedly trying to mentor these players. He's making millions of dollars, even after he got fired. He's making millions of dollars. Some of these players went on to make some good money themselves in the NFL, but a lot of them didn't. A lot of them are making it on their own, trying to work in businesses. And to hear that coming from their former head coach, it's absolutely disgusting. Folks, we need a reset about where we are with race relations in America. We need to reset a lot of this, because you know what? Our state's becoming more diverse in Alabama. The country's becoming more diverse. You know, and we need to be able to celebrate that. This is not something where these crazy ass Tucker Carlson theories of replacement theory are fact based at all. They're not. What we're trying to do is build a community, build a community in which we can all thrive, which we can all celebrate. And we can do that if we stop having politicians in office that come up with these racist tropes just to satisfy this crazy QAnon MAGA rally. We've got to get rid of the extremes, folks. We've got to get rid of the extremists. And you don't do it by going to the MAGA rallies like Tommy Tuberville did last night and said that. It's time to speak out, business leaders. It's time to speak out, Republicans. It's time to speak out, independents. Don't sugarcoat it. You know what it is. Call it for what it is. If you even have, whether you do it in public or private, go talk to them and say, you cannot do this. We cannot tolerate this in Alabama, of all places, the heart of the civil rights movement. A place where 4 little girls died because of the color of their skin. Come on, we can do better, Alabama. We can do better. So let's get out there. Let's work. Let's get out there and vote for people around the country. It's happening in your states too. All across this country, there are MAGA extremists running that are the same Confederate flag waving, QAnon saluting extremists out there. If you want to really make sure this country survives, then get out and vote. Let's get this country back to normal in a way that everybody can thrive and everybody can benefit. So thanks for listening to me. I know mine was a little bit of a diatribe too. I apologize for being late, but it's something I feel strongly about. I work with those families and I work with people, and I tried to do it in the Senate, and I talked about the fact that we all got to be equal. So let's get out there and make this country the ideal that it is, that it's equal for everybody, man, woman, and child of all races and all religions. That's the American ideal. That is the American dream, and there is no greater country in the world to do it. The folks that believe that, we're the patriots, not those jacklegs that were at the Capitol on January 6th, not the QAnon saluting fools that were cheering for Tommy Tuberville's racist rants last night. It's the patriots of America that are there for everybody. So let's get out there. We got 30 days. Thanks, folks. Good night.